She will forget your name. She will forget your face. She will forget every gift you gave her and every word you said. But she will never forget how you made her feel in one single moment. That moment when her heart raced, when her thoughts stopped, when something inside her shifted and she could not explain why. This is not poetry. This is psychology. And once you understand it, you will never see love the same way again. Welcome to the Shadow Mind. Today we are going to break apart the psychology of women and love. Not the surface-level advice you hear everywhere. Not the tricks, not the games. We are going deeper. We are going into the minds of Machiavelli, Schopenhauer, Robert Greene, the philosophers who studied human nature without flinching, the ones who wrote what others were afraid to say. By the end of this video, you will understand something that most men never grasp. You will see the invisible forces that control attraction, and you will learn how to work with them instead of against them. But first, let me tell you what this video is not. This is not about manipulation. This is not about tricks to make someone like you. Those methods are weak. They backfire. And they attract the wrong people into your life. This is about understanding. Real understanding. The kind that changes how you move through the world. Because here is the truth that Schopenhauer wrote about 200 years ago. Love is not what we think it is. We believe love is a choice, a decision based on qualities we admire. We think we fall for someone because of their kindness, their intelligence, their success. But Schopenhauer saw through this illusion. He understood that love operates beneath conscious thought. It moves through instinct, through biology, through forces we do not control and barely recognize. When a woman feels drawn to a man, she often cannot explain why. She will give reasons. She will point to his humor or his confidence or the way he looked at her, but those are explanations created after the fact. The attraction came first. The reasons came second. This is not a flaw in women. This is human nature. Men do the same thing. We all construct stories to explain feelings we do not fully understand. But here is where it gets interesting. Robert Greene wrote that those who understand the hidden mechanics of attraction gain an advantage, not because they can manipulate, but because they stop making the mistakes that kill attraction before it begins. Most men sabotage themselves without knowing it. They do everything right on the surface. They are kind. They are reliable. They show interest. They make their intentions clear, and nothing happens. The woman is polite, maybe even warm, but that spark never ignites. That feeling never arrives. And the man walks away confused, wondering what he did wrong. Here is what he did wrong. He spoke to her conscious mind when he should have spoken to something deeper. Machiavelli understood this principle in politics. He wrote that men judge by appearances. They respond to what they see and feel more than what they analyze. A leader who tries to convince through logic alone will fail, but a leader who creates the right atmosphere, the right feeling, the right moment, will move people without resistance. The same applies to attraction. A woman does not decide to feel something for you. The feeling arises on its own. It either happens or it does not. And your job is not to convince her. Your job is to create the conditions where that feeling can emerge. Now pay attention, because this is where most advice goes wrong. The common approach is to list qualities. Be confident. Be funny. Be successful. Be interesting. These are not wrong, but they miss the point. You can possess all these qualities and still generate nothing, because attraction is not a checklist. It is an experience. Think about the last time you felt truly pulled toward someone. Was it because you analyzed their qualities and concluded they were worthy? Or was it something that happened to you? Something you felt before you could explain it? This is the first principle. Love is not logical. It is experiential. Schopenhauer called it the will to life, a force that moves through us whether we agree with it or not. We like to believe we are rational creatures making rational choices. But beneath that surface, older forces are at work. Instincts shaped over thousands of generations. Patterns encoded so deep we mistake them for personality. When a woman feels safe with a man, something relaxes inside her. When she feels uncertain about him, something tightens. When she feels both at once, in the right balance, she becomes fascinated. She thinks about him when he is not there. She wonders what he is thinking. She creates stories about who he might be. This is not manipulation. This is nature. And here is the key insight. You cannot control whether she feels attraction, but you can control whether you kill it. Most men kill attraction through desperation, through over-availability, through trying too hard to prove their worth. They sense her interest and immediately flood the space with attention. They think more is better. They are wrong. Jung wrote about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide because we believe they are unacceptable. But the shadow also contains power. Restraint is power. Mystery is power. The ability to hold back when everything in you wants to push forward is power. This is not game playing. This is self-mastery. And self-mastery is the foundation everything else builds upon. Stay with me. We are just getting started. Let me tell you something that will change how you see every interaction you have from this point forward. Desire is not created. It is revealed. Schopenhauer understood this. He wrote that we do not want things because they are valuable. We call them valuable because we want them. The wanting comes first. The justification follows. This applies directly to attraction. When a woman desires a man, she will find reasons to justify that desire. She will point to his qualities, his strength, his humor, his presence. But those qualities did not create the desire. They simply gave it somewhere to land. Reverse this process, and you understand why so many men fail. They try to prove their value. They display their accomplishments. They list their qualities like items on a resume. And they wonder why she seems uninterested. She is uninterested because nothing has been revealed. No desire has emerged. All she sees is a man trying to convince her of something she does not feel. Robert Greene wrote about seduction as an art form, and the core of that art is not pursuit. It is creation of space. Think about how a fire burns. You need fuel. You need oxygen. You need a spark. But you also need space. Pack the wood too tight and nothing ignites. Leave no room for air, and the flame dies before it starts. Attraction works the same way. A man who fills every silence kills the fire. A man who answers every question removes the mystery. A man who makes his interest obvious too soon closes the space where desire could grow. This is not about playing games. This is about understanding rhythm, knowing when to advance and when to retreat, when to reveal and when to withhold. Machiavelli advised rulers to be like the fox and the lion. The lion has strength, but falls into traps. The fox recognizes traps, but lacks power. You need both. Strength and cunning. Presence and absence. Directness and mystery. In attraction, this translates to a simple principle. Be clear in your standards, but mysterious in your intentions. Let me explain what this means. A man with clear standards knows what he values. He does not chase every woman who shows him attention. He does not compromise his path for approval. He is selective. This selectivity itself creates attraction because it signals value, but mysterious intentions mean She cannot fully predict you. She does not know exactly what you are thinking. She does not know if she has won you over. There is always something withheld, something still to discover. This combination is powerful. Clarity in who you are. Mystery in how you feel about her. Now here is where Schopenhauer gets dark. He argued that love is fundamentally selfish, not because people are bad, but because the will to life uses us for its own purposes. We think we choose our partners, but beneath that choice, deeper forces are selecting for survival and reproduction. You do not need to agree with his philosophy to learn from it. The lesson is this: do not expect attraction to be fair. Do not expect it to reward goodness or punish selfishness. It operates by its own rules, and fighting those rules only leads to frustration. Instead, learn the rules. Work with them. Accept that human nature is what it is. Nietzsche extended this thinking. He wrote about the will to power as the fundamental drive in all living things. Not power over others, power over oneself. The ability to shape your own character, to become who you choose to be, rather than whose circumstance made you. A man who has done this work radiates something different. He does not seek validation because he validates himself. He does not need approval because he approves of his own direction. This internal security is felt by everyone around him, especially women. Jung described the process as individuation, becoming whole by integrating the parts of yourself you have rejected. The shadow contains everything you pushed away, the anger you were told to suppress, the ambition you were taught to hide, the desires you learned to deny. When a man integrates his shadow, he becomes complete. He no longer leaks energy trying to maintain a false image. He no longer fears exposure because there is nothing left to expose. He simply is who he is. This completeness is magnetic. Women have evolved to detect authenticity. They spend their lives navigating social dynamics far more complex than most men realize. They read micro-expressions. They sense incongruence. They feel when something is off, even when they cannot name it. A man who is pretending will eventually be discovered. His mask will slip. His words will contradict his energy. And whatever attraction existed will collapse into disappointment. But a man who has done the inner work does not pretend. There is no gap between who he appears to be and who he actually is. This alignment creates trust, and trust creates safety. And safety, as we will discuss later, is the foundation of lasting love. Robert Greene wrote that authenticity is itself seductive, not because honesty is virtuous, but because it is rare. In a world of performances, someone real stands out. Someone who speaks truth without apology cuts through the noise. But do not confuse authenticity with transparency. You can be real without revealing everything. You can be honest without being an open book. The masters understood this. Give people a sense of your depth. Let them glimpse what lies beneath. But never show them everything. Always keep something in reserve. Because the moment she feels she knows everything about you, the mystery ends. And when mystery ends, a certain kind of desire fades with it. Every woman you will ever meet will test you, not because she is cruel, not because she wants to hurt you. She tests because she needs to know something important. She needs to know who you become when pressure arrives. Jung wrote about the anima and the animus, the feminine element within men and the masculine element within women. These archetypes drive attraction in ways we do not consciously control. And one function of these archetypes is evaluation. When a woman tests a man, her anima is gathering data. Can he handle challenge? Does he crumble under criticism? Will he abandon himself to please her? Or will he hold his center when the storm arrives? This is not optional. Every woman does this. Some consciously, most unconsciously. The test appears as a question, a challenge, a provocation, an emotional storm that seems to come from nowhere. Your response determines everything. Fail the test, and something inside her closes. She may not leave immediately. She may not even show disappointment, but attraction begins to drain away like water through a crack. Something shifts. Something is lost. Pass the test and something opens. Respect deepens. Trust expands. The bond strengthens in ways that words cannot create. So how do you pass? Here is what not to do. Do not react emotionally. Do not match her energy with defensiveness. Do not explain yourself excessively. Do not try to fix her feelings. Do not collapse into apology when you have done nothing wrong. Epictetus wrote that we cannot control what happens to us. We can only control our response. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, and it applies directly to these moments. When she tests you, she is watching how you handle your own reactions. She is not interested in whether you can control her emotions. She is interested in whether you can control your own. A man who stays calm when provoked demonstrates something words never could. He shows that his internal state does not depend on external circumstances. He shows that he is anchored within himself, that nothing she says or does will shake his foundation. This is not coldness. This is not ignoring her. This is presence without reaction, attention without anxiety, engagement without desperation. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations about returning to your principles when disturbed. When something external threatens your peace, you come back to what you know is true. You do not let the moment sweep you away. In practice, this looks like staying relaxed in your body, breathing normally, speaking at your usual pace, perhaps even smiling slightly, not dismissively, but as if you see what is happening and you are not bothered by it. This response communicates something powerful. It says that you have faced challenges before, that you know who you are, that her emotional weather does not define your climate. Now, here is the deeper truth that most men miss. She does not want you to fail. She is not hoping you crumble. The test is not an attack. It is an invitation. She is inviting you to show her something she desperately wants to see. She wants to discover that you are the man who will not break. She wants to know that when life gets hard, and it will get hard, she can count on your stability. She wants evidence that you are different from the men who disappointed her before. Robert Greene wrote about the strategic use of absence. Sometimes the strongest move is not to engage. Sometimes you create power by what you do not do, by what you do not say, by the reaction you do not have. When you pass her test without drama, you accomplish something remarkable. You give her peace. You show her that conflict does not destroy you, that disagreement does not threaten you, that her full range of emotions can exist in your presence without consequence. This is rare. Most men either become aggressive or become submissive. They fight or they fold. But the man who remains centered, present, and unmoved occupies a different category entirely. Schopenhauer was pessimistic about human nature. He believed suffering was inevitable and desire was the root of pain. But even he acknowledged that certain individuals transcend these limitations. They rise above reactive patterns. They achieve a kind of freedom that most never touch. This freedom is attractive because it is powerful. And power, properly understood, is nothing more than the ability to remain yourself under pressure. Jung would say you have integrated the shadow when your darker impulses no longer control you. The anger is there, but it serves you. The fear is there, but it does not drive you. You have faced what you are and made peace with it. A man in this state does not fear a woman's test because he does not fear himself. He knows what he is capable of. He knows his own darkness. And he has chosen who he will be anyway. This is the man women call unshakable. Not because he feels nothing. He feels everything. But because nothing moves him from his center. Nothing makes him betray himself. And when she realizes this, something profound happens. She stops testing. Not completely. Life itself is a continuous test, but the adversarial edge softens. She begins to trust that you will not change, that you are who you appear to be, that she has found something solid in an uncertain world. That trust is worth more than passion, more than chemistry, more than anything words can promise. Because passion fades, chemistry fluctuates, words can lie, but consistency proves itself over time. And time is what separates infatuation from love. Here is a paradox that has confused men for generations. The more you want something, the harder it becomes to get. The less you seem to need it, the more it flows toward you. This is not mysticism. This is psychology. Schopenhauer wrote extensively about the nature of desire. He observed that wanting itself creates suffering. Not because the object is unattainable, but because the wanting changes how we behave. It makes us grasp. It makes us desperate. It makes us ugly in ways we cannot see. A man who desperately wants a woman communicates something through his behavior. Every action is colored by that want. His words carry too much weight. His attention feels too intense. His presence becomes a pressure rather than a gift. She feels this, even if she cannot name it. Something in her pulls back. Something warns her that this man is not free, that he has made her responsible for his happiness, that the weight of his need will eventually crush the space between them. Compare this to a man who genuinely enjoys her company but does not need her to complete him. His attention is a choice, not a compulsion. His interest is genuine but unattached to outcome. He would enjoy her presence, but he would survive her absence. This is not indifference. This is freedom. Robert Greene called it the art of letting things come to you. Instead of chasing, you become magnetic. Instead of pursuing, you attract. You focus on your own development, your own purpose, your own life. And in doing so, you become someone others want to pursue. Machiavelli understood a version of this in politics. He wrote that a prince who begs for support appears weak. A prince who seems self-sufficient attracts allies. People want to join strength. They want to be part of something that is already winning. The same dynamic operates in attraction. A man who appears complete attracts interest. A man who appears incomplete repels it. This is not fair, but fairness is not the point. Understanding is the point. Now, here is where most advice fails. People tell you to fake it. Pretend you do not care. Act indifferent. Play hard to get. This does not work. Jung wrote about the persona, the mask we wear in public. A persona can be useful. It allows us to navigate social situations. But when the persona becomes a prison, when we cannot remove the mask, we lose ourselves, and others sense the disconnection. A woman can feel when your indifference is real and when it is performance. The fake version creates confusion and distrust. The real version creates attraction and respect. So the question becomes, how do you actually stop wanting so desperately? Epictetus taught that we suffer when we confuse what we control with what we do not. We control our own thoughts and actions. We do not control outcomes. We do not control other people. And we certainly do not control whether someone loves us. When you internalize this, something shifts. You stop trying to force results. You focus on what you can do. You prepare yourself. You show up as your best. And then you release attachment to how she responds. This is not passivity. This is intelligent action combined with emotional freedom. Think of an archer. He can control his stance, his aim, his breath, his release. He cannot control the wind. He cannot control whether the target moves. A master archer focuses entirely on what he can do. Then he lets the arrow fly without anxiety about where it lands. The same principle applies here. You can control how you develop yourself. You can control how you show up. You can control your own responses and reactions. You cannot control her feelings. You cannot make her want you, and the attempt to do so only pushes her away. Nietzsche wrote about amor fati, love of fate, embracing whatever happens as necessary and good. Not because everything is pleasant, but because resistance to reality creates suffering. When you apply this to relationships, you stop fighting the truth. Some women will feel attraction for you, some will not, and no amount of effort will change that ratio significantly. What changes is you. As you become more developed, more integrated, more complete, the number who respond to you naturally increases. But you cannot control any individual outcome, and trying to do so is the very thing that prevents success. Here is the practical application. When you feel yourself wanting too much, pull back, not as a tactic, but as a correction. Remind yourself that you do not need this specific outcome. Your life is good whether she chooses you or not. You have purpose beyond her attention. You have value beyond her validation. This is not a script you recite. It must be true. You must actually build a life that justifies this belief. Otherwise, the words are empty, and she will feel their emptiness. Schopenhauer was a pessimist. He believed most people remain trapped in cycles of wanting and suffering. But he also acknowledged that some escape. Some achieve a state where desire no longer controls them, where they act from choice rather than compulsion. This state is possible. It is not easy. It requires work most people avoid. But the reward is a kind of power that cannot be faked or taken away. When you no longer need her, you are finally free to love her. And that freedom is felt. She senses it, and it draws her closer than any pursuit ever could. We have talked about mystery, about tests, about desire and freedom. Now we arrive at something that underlies them all. Safety. Not physical safety, though that matters. Emotional safety. The deep sense that in your presence, she can be herself without judgment. That she can fall apart, and you will not abandon her. That her storms will not destroy what you have built together. This is what makes a woman stay. Not excitement, not passion, not the rush of early attraction. Those fade. Every relationship moves past the honeymoon phase. What remains when the chemicals settle is either safety or emptiness. Schopenhauer was cynical about love. He believed it was nature's trick to ensure reproduction. But even he acknowledged that some relationships transcend this. Some connections deepen over time rather than decay. And the common thread is always security. Robert Greene wrote about the importance of providing a sense of safety in seduction. He understood that danger attracts, but stability keeps. A woman may be drawn to excitement, but she will only surrender to someone she trusts. Now, here is what most men get wrong. They think safety means being predictable, being nice, never disagreeing, never challenging. They become so afraid of conflict that they eliminate all tension. And in doing so, they eliminate attraction as well. True safety is not the absence of strength. It is strength under control. Think of a great tree in a storm. The wind howls, the branches bend, but the trunk does not move. The roots hold. and anything sheltering beneath that tree remains protected. This is the kind of safety a woman needs, not someone who avoids storms, someone who remains standing when storms arrive. Marcus Aurelius wrote about equanimity, the ability to maintain inner calm regardless of external chaos. This quality is not coldness, it is depth. It is having such a strong internal foundation that surface disturbances do not reach your core. When a woman is upset and you remain calm, you give her a gift. You show her that her emotions are not too much, that she does not have to manage herself perfectly to be accepted, that you can contain what she is feeling without being destroyed by it. This is rare. Most men either become upset themselves or try to fix the situation immediately. Both responses communicate the same thing. Her emotions are a problem that must be solved. Something is wrong that needs correction. But emotions do not always need solutions. Sometimes they need witnesses. Sometimes they need space to exist without resistance. And the man who can provide that space becomes irreplaceable. Jung wrote about the container in psychological development. A child needs a parent who can hold their emotions without being overwhelmed. When this container is provided, the child learns to regulate themselves. When it is absent, they struggle for life. The same dynamic continues in adult relationships. A woman tests whether you can contain her full emotional range. When you can, she feels safe enough to bond. When you cannot, she protects herself by keeping distance. Here is the practice. When she is emotional, resist the urge to speak first. Let there be silence. Let her feel that you are present without needing to immediately respond. Your presence itself communicates more than words. When you do speak, validate the emotion before addressing the content. Do not say you should not feel that way. Do not immediately offer solutions. Simply acknowledge what is happening. I see that you are upset. Tell me more. This is not weakness. This requires more strength than reacting. Any fool can become defensive. Any child can match anger with anger. But holding space while feeling the urge to react, that is mastery. Epictetus taught that we should be like a rock against which waves crash. The waves make noise. The waves spray. But the rock remains, unchanged, unmoved, present. This steadiness creates safety because it proves consistency. She learns over time that you will not suddenly become a different person, that your character does not shift with circumstance, that who you are today is who you will be tomorrow. Nietzsche wrote about eternal recurrence. Would you choose this life again, exactly as it is, forever? The question forces honesty. It reveals what we actually value versus what we merely tolerate. Apply this to your relationships. Are you building something you would choose again? Are you becoming someone who creates safety naturally? Or are you merely performing, hoping she does not notice the gaps? She will notice. Eventually. The only question is whether there is substance beneath the surface. When there is substance, safety is not a tactic. It is a natural consequence of who you are. You do not create safety through techniques. You embody it through development. This is why inner work matters, not as self-help cliché, but as the actual foundation of lasting attraction. A man who has not faced his own darkness cannot hold space for hers. A man who runs from his own emotions cannot contain another's. The shadow work Jung described is not optional for those who want deep connection. It is prerequisite. You must know yourself to be trusted with another. And when you have done that work, when you have integrated what you feared, when you have become whole, something changes in how people experience you. They feel held. They feel safe. They feel that they could reveal their worst and still be accepted. That feeling is the foundation of love that lasts. Everything we have discussed leads to one central insight. You cannot make someone love you, but you can become someone worth loving. This distinction changes everything. Most men spend their energy on tactics. What to say, how to act, when to text, how to create attraction through technique. This approach has a ceiling. It can generate interest, but not devotion. It can start something, but not sustain it. The masters understood that lasting influence comes from character, not manipulation. Machiavelli is often misread as an advocate for deception, but read him closely and you find something deeper. He valued virtù, the ability to respond skillfully to fortune. And virtù cannot be faked. It must be cultivated over years of discipline and reflection. Robert Greene summarized thousands of pages of historical wisdom into a core principle. Those who master themselves can influence anyone. Those who remain slaves to their reactions remain slaves to circumstance. Your relationships reflect your inner state. If you are anxious, your relationships will be anxious. If you are secure, your relationships will be secure. If you are divided against yourself, you will attract partners who deepen that division. Jung called this projection. We see in others what we refuse to see in ourselves. We attract what we are, not what we want. And until we change ourselves, our external circumstances keep repeating. This is why men who focus only on technique find themselves in the same situations with different women. The faces change, but the patterns remain. They think they need better tactics when they actually need better development. So, what does development look like? Schopenhauer suggested that the highest achievement is transcending the will, moving beyond compulsive wanting into a state of serene observation. This is extreme. Most people cannot reach such detachment, but the direction is useful. Every step you take toward wanting less desperately is a step toward freedom. Every time you catch yourself grasping and choose to release, you grow. Every moment you act from choice rather than compulsion, you become more attractive. Nietzsche offered another path. The will to power is not domination of others. It is self-overcoming, becoming more than you were, continuously creating and recreating yourself according to your own values. The man who does this becomes fascinating because he is always evolving. He does not stagnate. He does not calcify into rigid patterns. There is always something new emerging, and that novelty keeps attention alive. Marcus Aurelius focused on duty and acceptance. Do what is right regardless of outcome. Accept what happens without complaint. Focus on your own behavior, not on how others respond to it. This attitude creates a kind of freedom that most people never experience. You stop manipulating outcomes because you accept that outcomes are beyond your control. You stop performing for approval because you approve of yourself. You stop fearing rejection because you know your worth is not determined by any single person's judgment. A man in this state is calm, not because he does not care, but because he has directed his care appropriately. He cares about his own development, his own integrity, his own path, and he releases attachment to how others respond to it. This is the ultimate attraction switch. Not a technique, a transformation. Albert Ellis, the psychologist who built rational emotive therapy, wrote about unconditional self-acceptance, the idea that you accept yourself regardless of performance or approval, not because you are perfect, but because your worth as a human being does not depend on external validation. When you achieve this, neediness disappears. You no longer require her attention to feel complete. You no longer depend on her approval to feel valid. You enjoy her presence, but you do not cling to it. You want her in your life, but you would survive her absence. This is the paradox that sets you free. By genuinely accepting that you might lose her, You become someone she does not want to leave. By releasing the desperate grip of need, you create the space where love can breathe. Hobbes wrote that life in nature is nasty, brutish, and short. Humans form societies to escape this condition, and within society, we form bonds that provide meaning beyond mere survival. The greatest of these bonds is love. Not the infatuation that burns hot and fast, but the deep connection that sustains through seasons, that weathers storms, that grows stronger under pressure. This kind of love is not found. It is built by two people who have done their own work, who know themselves, who have faced their shadows, who can offer stability because they have found it within. Plato described love as the pursuit of the whole. We are incomplete, and we seek completion through union. But he also understood that completion cannot come from another person. The wholeness must first exist within. And when two whole people come together, something remarkable happens. They do not complete each other because they are already complete. Instead, they enhance each other. They amplify each other. They create something greater than either could alone. This is the goal. Not to find someone who fills your gaps, but to fill your own gaps and then find someone who appreciates what you have built. The journey we have taken through these philosophers leads to one conclusion. Love is a mirror. It reflects what you are. If you want better love, become better yourself. If you want deeper connection, develop deeper capacity. If you want someone to stay, become someone worth staying with. This is not simple, but it is true. And truth is the only foundation that holds. We have covered ground that most people never explore. We have gone into the darkness of human psychology and emerged with principles that work. But I want to leave you with something that ties it all together. One final principle that contains everything else. The quality of your love depends on the quality of your attention. Let me explain. Schopenhauer believed that most people sleepwalk through life. They react automatically. They follow patterns laid down in childhood. They never wake up to what they are actually doing. This applies to relationships. Most people do not truly see their partners. They see projections. They see what they expect to see. They see through filters of past experience and future anxiety. Real attention is rare. The ability to see another person as they actually are, not as you wish they were, not as you fear they might be, just as they are, in this moment, without agenda. When you offer this quality of attention, something extraordinary happens. The other person feels seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time. Jung wrote about the importance of witnessing in psychological healing. Trauma heals when it is witnessed without judgment. Shame dissolves when it is held in accepting awareness. The deepest wounds close when someone finally sees them and does not turn away. In relationships, this witnessing is the greatest gift you can offer. You do not need to solve her problems. You do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to fix what is broken. You simply need to be present, fully, without distraction, without agenda, without impatience. Robert Greene wrote that attention is the most powerful seduction. Not flattery, not gifts, not words, but the feeling that you are completely focused on her, that in this moment, nothing else exists, that she has your full presence. This cannot be faked. True presence is felt at a level beneath words. She knows the difference between someone who is performing attention and someone who is actually attending. And here is the secret. Attention is a muscle. It can be strengthened through practice. Meditation builds it. Focused work builds it. Any activity where you concentrate fully without distraction builds the capacity for presence. When you develop this capacity, your relationships transform. Not because you learn new techniques, but because you bring something different to every interaction. a quality of being that most people cannot match. Marcus Aurelius practiced constant attention to the present moment. He knew that the mind wanders, that anxiety pulls us into the future, that regret drags us into the past, and that the only place life actually happens is now. In relationships, presence is power. When you are with her, be with her. Not thinking about work, not checking your phone, not planning your next sentence while she speaks. Just there. Fully. This sounds simple. It is not. Our minds resist presence. They want to wander. They want to escape into distraction. Staying present requires discipline that most people never develop. But those who do develop it stand apart. They create experiences that other people cannot replicate. They make others feel things that words cannot describe. Because the feeling of being truly seen is rare and precious. Now let me connect this to everything we have discussed. The tests we talked about. Pass them through presence. Stay calm and present when she challenges you. Do not disappear into reaction. The safety we explored. Create it through presence. When you are stable and present, she feels secure. The value we examined. Increase it through presence. A man who can truly focus is valuable because attention is scarce. The desire we analyzed. Cultivate it through presence. Be fully there when you are there, and fully gone when you are not. The contrast creates fascination. Everything comes back to this capacity. The ability to be where you are, doing what you are doing, without fragmentation, without distraction, without the constant pull of elsewhere. Freud believed that human beings are driven by unconscious forces, that we rarely know why we do what we do. His insight was that awareness itself transforms these forces. When we see clearly what was hidden, it loses power over us. The practice of presence is a practice of awareness. As you become more present, you see more clearly. Your own patterns become visible. Your reactions become choices. Your unconscious becomes conscious. And as you change, your relationships change with you. This is the path that Nietzsche called self-overcoming, not self-destruction, not self-denial. Self-overcoming, continuously becoming more than you were, using every experience as fuel for growth. Love is not something you find, it is something you become capable of. The greater your capacity, the deeper your experience. We started this video with a promise to show you the psychology of women and love, but the truth is simpler and harder than any collection of tactics. Become the man who has mastered himself, who has faced his shadow, who can hold space for another without losing himself, who offers presence as a gift, who creates safety through stability, who attracts through completion rather than need. This man does not chase. He does not manipulate. He does not play games. He simply is, and in his being, he creates the conditions where love can grow. This is the shadow path. Not darkness for its own sake, but willingness to face what others avoid, to study human nature without flinching, to see the world as it is and act accordingly. You now have what most never receive. The principles that govern attraction. Use them wisely, not to manipulate, but to become. This has been The Shadow Mind. Until next time, stay aware.